Hey, peer mentors. So we're going to go over a lesson plan crash course. Now, keep in mind that your lesson plans can differ from someone else's. They don't have to necessarily be the exact same way, the way that they're presented or written. But I will say it is very, very, very important that you do write down your lesson plans. Now, why is that? Well, for a number of reasons. One, to help you stay on track. It can be really easy when you're in front of a group of 19, 20 students to get off track and maybe miss a point you wanted to make sure to talk about. Also, lesson plans are really important to have done ahead of time and be easy to read for anyone, because what if for some reason something happens and we have to have another peer mentor step into your class and teach? Every single year it has happened. We have had to have a substitute for someone else's class. Now, I hope it's not, maybe this is the magical year it doesn't happen, but emergencies happen and life happens. And sometimes you have to unexpectedly leave USF. So we want to make sure we know what you are planning for your class in the event that we need to have a substitute come in. Now, I'm going to show you how I personally would write lesson plans. I've taught multiple classes, including this one, and lesson plans really help me stay on topic. They make sure I'm hitting my overall outcomes and my individual objectives of the class. So, first off, what is a lesson plan? Basically, it's a detailed description, and I'm looking at my PowerPoint, it's a detailed description of the course or your learning trajectory of your lesson. It's your plan, it's your roadmap as a teacher, again, or for your substitute to be able to come into your class and teach the class as you would have taught it. It's developed by the teacher as a guide, and it will vary based on teacher, based on your class, based on your environment. Maybe you set up your lesson plan for a very typical classroom setting, and you walk into a conference room looking classroom. That has happened to peer mentors. We have some classrooms that look more traditional, and then we have others that have round tables. And so your lesson plan may vary based off of your classroom, but what I want you to do is I want you to make your lesson plans throughout this course as if you were in what you would consider a traditional honors college classroom. And if you need to adjust in the fall, that's totally okay. Or if you already know which room you're in, which you should, before the end of this class, know which classroom you're in, if not already, you can adjust based on what that classroom looks like, but always be flexible. You never know what can happen. Maybe your location changes. Maybe for some reason we leave the ALN building. So many different things can happen. So you want your lesson plans to be structured and be planned, but also flexible enough to where you can adjust if needed. Now, there are a few major things that I think every lesson plan should have. I think it should have a learning outcome, a learning objective, an educational strategy, a purpose, a facilitator's guide, resources, and some form of assessment or reflection. And so I'll go into each of those very specifically. First, your learning outcome. Basically, this is your overall goal. At the end of the day, what is the overall goal of this class, of this lesson? Your learning objective is the next thing. Now that is very specific individual things. Usually for an outcome, you have one overall goal. Objectives, you have individual smaller goals. So for your learning objective, what do you want your students to be able to do at the end of the class? And it could be multiple things. Your educational strategy is how are you going to present the lesson? Are you going to do PowerPoint? Are you going to do discussions? Are you going to take a walk around campus? Are you going to do a mix of both? Are you going to have videos? Are you going to have journals? And everything that you would think. How are you going to present that information? What's your purpose? Now, this may seem like it's obvious. Well, my purpose is to teach my outcome. Not necessarily. Your purpose should be your overall vision for this lesson. So maybe the way, let's talk about Health and Wellness Week. Maybe 1 p.m.'s overall purpose is for students to feel like they can self-reflect and self-assess and identify good strategies for meditation, to maintain a clear mind purpose. Maybe someone else's purpose is to have your students be able to adopt healthy eating habits. Two very different purposes. And also thinking about the why. Why are you teaching this lesson? So is it that you want to empower? Do you want to have your students, I just lost my train of thought. But yes, like what is the purpose behind the lesson as you as a teacher and for the students? What's the purpose? The next section is the facilitator's guide. Now this is that very specific part of if we needed a sub to come into your class and teach. This is step by step what they would do. So step 1, we do an icebreaker for 10 minutes. Step 2, we talk about this topic. This is exactly what I want to be discussed. Step for 15 minutes. Step 3. And you block it out. So what are you, the PM, doing? What are students doing? What are presenters doing? If you're bringing in people from the outside, that is the step-by-step plan. Now, a lot of people think the facilitator's guide in itself is a lesson plan. I personally like the other stuff, the outcome, objective, the strategy, and the purpose, because that helps me stay on track. I try to switch up my strategies. If I look at all my lesson plans and I see PowerPoint, 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 and every single educational strategy, well, that's going to help me realize, oh, I'm using a lot of PowerPoint this semester. I should switch it up. So the next section is resources. So what resources are you going to bring into the lesson? Is it videos? Is it websites? Is it a handout? Things like that. And that helps me remember, oh, I need to print out this handout before this class. That's why I have that resources. And then an assessment or a reflection. How will you know the students got that outcome? How will you know the students got the objectives? How did it go? It could be something very formal where you send out surveys. It could be a simple asking students, hey, did this help? Or, hey, tell me one thing you learned this lesson and one thing that you already knew, or something like that. And it helps you assess whether your lesson was relevant and helps us adjust our syllabus every year. For example, based off some of the assessment PMs got last year, we changed up our syllabus and we've changed up the curriculum for Honors Foundations just about every year since this program has started, because we want to make sure we're presenting things students actually want and need. So kind of going more into that, I'm going to share this slide and we're going to do an example. Ooh. Hold on, sorry. Okay, so, going back to the breakdown. So I want you to think about your lesson is I want you to teach a student how to make a PB&J sandwich. So what's our overall goal? My overall goal is the student to know how to make food. That's the overall goal, right? It's very simple. It's very abstract. It's not specific. Your overall outcome, my overall goal is I want the student to know how to make food. Okay, well, what's my objective? What do I want them to be able to do? Well, I want the student to be able to know where to find the bread, what type of bread they want and where to buy it. I want the student to know what type of peanut butter is the best. Do they like crunchy? Do they like creamy? I want the students to know that strawberry jelly is the only way to go because grape jelly's nasty. We can talk about it if you disagree with me. I want the student to know how the bread, the peanut butter, jelly, I want the student to be able to navigate a knife on a piece of bread. I know this is kind of silly, but just to give you an idea of how this would work. So then my educational strategy, okay, how am I going to present this lesson? How am I going to teach these students how to make a PB&J sandwich? Okay, well, I'm going to do a demonstration. That's going to be my educational strategy. I'm going to bring in bread and peanut butter and strawberry jelly, not grape, and I'm going to make a PB&J sandwich in front of them. Another educational strategy could be a PowerPoint or a video or a activity where you have everyone make PB&J sandwiches. What's the purpose? Well, my purpose and vision for this is, I know we're college students and sometimes we don't have the ability to cook really good meals, but I want my students to be able to have protein and maybe some fruit if the jelly is like real fruit jelly, you know. And my vision for this is that the students leave this lesson confident in their ability to make a PB&J sandwich. Do you see how that is a little bit different than your outcome and your objective? The purpose, why? Why am I doing this? I want my students to feel confident in making a PB&J versus I want them to make a PB&J. I'm saying PB&J jelly, PB&J sandwich. It's really late, if you can't tell, and I'm stumbling on my words. Facilitator's guide. So what are we doing? Okay, so well, first, before my class even starts, I need to go buy bread, peanut butter, strawberry jelly. I need to find out if anyone in my class has a peanut allergy, because I may have to adjust my lesson plan for that or have them Skype in. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to class. I'm gonna bring my supplies. I'm going to then demonstrate how to make PB&J sandwich. The students are going to watch, and what else? They're going to watch. I'm going to eat the sandwich, or maybe I'll cut it up and let some of the other students eat the sandwich. And then at the end of it, I will assess, which we'll talk about in that part. And I'm going to give them a resource, which obviously you would know all this by that point and you would write this in your facilitator's guide. I honestly write the facilitator's guide last because you get all the other stuff out of the way because it's smaller. The facilitator's guide is the longest part of a lesson plan. So resources. So what else would I include besides just this PB&J demonstration? Well, maybe I would print out the nutritional facts of peanut butter and jelly, or what type of breads are the best, doing handouts. Some other resources I may provide is maybe I find an article about the nutritional value of PB&Js and how many you can have a week. I don't know, but things like that. I hope this is making sense. And then the assessment of reflection. How will I know the students learn? Okay, well, maybe next week I require every student to bring in a PB&J that they made at home. And that way I can know, did I teach them how to make a PB&J sandwich? Or I can ask them to write a reflection on how the lesson went. Or maybe I can have them write down instructions on how to make a PB&J sandwich, and then I have the instructions and I have to do the instructions step by step as they wrote them. So that's how you write a lesson plan. It just kind of breaks it up. Like I said, this is a crash course, so went a little bit faster than I originally thought it would, but that's okay. I'm trying to stop this share. There we go. But that's how you do it. And I know the PB&J example is pretty silly, but that's okay. Again, you don't have to write lesson plans step by step like that. That's how I personally like to write lesson plans when I teach. But you can do it in a different way. Maybe you like to type them up or write them. Maybe you want to put your step-by-step guide a certain way, and maybe you mash your outcome and objectives together. Again, it's totally up to you. My biggest thing when it comes to lesson plans is, one, make sure you have everything that you need to have. Every lesson plan for your Honors Foundations course has to have an icebreaker or an activity, icebreaker or activity relevant to the lesson. If it's just an icebreaker to get to know each other, that's okay, but you wouldn't do that all the time. You would only do that the first few weeks. And then starting to build up those icebreakers so they don't get boring. We've all been in Honors Foundations courses, and sometimes your PM may pick an icebreaker and you're like, why are we doing this? So try to keep them fun and engaging. So every lesson plan needs that. They also need to have those discussion questions. So it needs to have 5 to 6 discussion questions. It also needs to have your topics of what you're going to talk about. And let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Your icebreaker, your topics, 5 to 10 discussion questions, and just kind of how you're going to present the information. I believe that's everything. If I forgot, I'll type it down below or something like that. It is in your syllabus, so definitely read your syllabus when you're making your lesson plans. Look and see what all's required. Again, so first, make sure you have all those things. The other thing that's extremely important for your lesson plan, while every lesson plan is different by each person, you need to be able to give your lesson plan to someone else and they understand what you're doing. Again, that's for if you need to, for some reason, have someone cover your class, we need to have the lesson plan to be able to give them. So that's a lesson plan crash course. I hope this helps. Again, this is going to be an awesome summer. If you have any questions, let me know. Reach out to your peer mentors or your student coordinator, Lexi. They've all written lesson plans before as well with this Honors Foundations course, and they have a bunch of information. Again, their lesson plans may look different than mine, so maybe your PML writes lesson plans in a way that you like better than I do. So reach out, start the conversation, and I can't wait to see them. They're going to be awesome. Don't stress too much. The whole reason why we're doing this in this class is so you can get feedback and make your lesson plans even better in the fall. All right, that's all I have for you, and have fun.